That's funny. He goes through that time, and he's been a part of a lot of those stops, Craig has. And you think back to those Valdosta State days, you remember those, don't you?
Yes, sir.
You were younger, and so was I.
That's right.
I tell you what, time flies. And those times at Valdosta State were great coming in. I got to see Chris Hatcher and his father, Edgar, who have been good friends of ours for a long time. And he gave me that first opportunity at a full-time job. Coach Donnan always brags that he gave me my first chance, but I told him that was a administrative assistant job. Basically, I was a secretary making about $2,000 a year when I came back to University of Georgia. And then Coach Hatcher called me down there and said, well, I'm going to give you about a $10,000 raise. I'm going to hire you for $12,000. And, of course, at that time, I really thought I was rich. And got to work there at Valdosta State with some great men, with Coach Muschamp and Coach Hatcher. And I still think back to the number of high schools I walk in this state, and there is someone that either played there, went to school there, or I coached there, or has played there since, and you feel like you have a connection to a place like Valdosta State that was so great. But getting my start off in the coaching profession, it was special to do that, and then had a lot of stops since. And got to be around a lot of ball. But the job that you guys do, the men in this room, is ultimately incredible. And I know as you pass by people your age, and a lot of the coaches are younger now than I am, and they're coaching in a profession that it changes. It's gone from, I was sitting in a kid's house last night, and his dad was telling me how he did 3-a-days, and his dad was much older than me, and he said, we did 3-a-days, we did them every day in the summer, we did full pads every practice, and you hear all the stories, and I thought, you know, it's funny because we did 2-a-days at Georgia. In high school, we'd go to Troy State and did our camp there with my dad as coach, and we had 3 practices a day. Georgia, 2 practices a day. And how it's changed to now you can't even practice twice in a day, not with pads on. You can't hit over a certain amount of time. And I always thought I wouldn't be that guy sitting there telling that kid how hard I had it as a player, and I found myself doing that last night, and I had to stop and say, wait a second now. He doesn't know anything about that. He doesn't care anything about that. And ultimately, all he knows is the rules he's got to play by. And a lot of the kids, we don't give them credit for the toughness that they have. But I always tell people, the kids don't change. A lot of times we do. And I don't know if there's any recordings in here, but the sissification of America is under full assault. I can promise you that. And I don't always say it with an S. Sometimes I say it with a P, but I can't do that in here for the fear of offending someone. But our game is a special game. So the men in this room protect this game. And how do you protect this game? You do it the right way. You respect this game. You teach it the right way. Don't sacrifice your cultures and your values for anything or anybody. Because ultimately, this game is what makes our kids, our young men that grow up to be fathers and husbands of the next generation, it makes them tough. I mean, you think about everybody you were impacted by in your lifetime. I guarantee if every one of you named a top 5 impact people in your life, one of them would have been a football coach. And I know it's been the same way for me. I want to get into this presentation because, first of all, I can't take credit for this presentation. Coach Schumann, our inside linebackers coach, actually put this together, had it put together, and I actually got to use it at a Nike clinic in Las Vegas last year. Let me ask that question. Was anybody in this room in Las Vegas last year at the Nike clinic when I spoke? I was about to say, he raised his hand. You weren't out in Las Vegas, was it? You were in Vegas? That's right, he did. But I don't think you were there that morning. You must have been sleeping in. But Coach Winslet was the only one there. That makes me feel better because he didn't listen so he can get it a second time. You always worry about using the same material twice, but the presentation, we got so much good feedback from that so many high school coaches were like, you know what, I've never really seen it presented that way. A lot of times coaches come in here, man, they do X's and O's and they just blow you away. They just wow you with X's and O's and you're like, I can't use none of that shit. You know what I mean? I can't use any of that because it's triple option I face or it's air raid and they're throwing it every down. I can't use that. I want to give guys at clinics something they can use. And I always go back to my dad. The first clinic I went to, I was so fired up. I was at Georgia, and it was going to be the first AFCA. I forget where it was that year. I think it was actually in San Antonio. And I told my dad, I said, I'm going to the clinic. They're paying for me to fly to the clinic, and I get to come back, and I'm going to learn so much. He said, well, make sure when you go to that clinic, number one, you take notes, but number two, you get something you can use. He said, because of all the clinics I went to over the test of time, it was a lot more about beer drinking, a lot more about hanging out than it was about learning anything. And I thought, you know what? I'm going to try to help every clinic I ever go to and give somebody something they can put an anchor to, they can use in their program in some kind of way. So I'm going to start this off and go probably 15 or 20 minutes, but Coach Schumann actually knows it a hell of a lot better than I do, and I always heard you surround yourself with people smarter than you. So Schumann was with us at Alabama for, hell, I don't know. He was an undergrad, a graduate assistant, administrative assistant. He must have spent 8 years there. But I know he got in school and had a full ride academically. I think he had like a 32 ACT coming out of high school. So he's a hell of a lot smarter than all the men in this room, and including myself. So I wanted to get him to present this, and he'll do a good job with it. But where's my remote? This kind of takes you through an evolution. Can I move around? Is this thing mobile and hostile? There we go. So this thing takes you through an evolution of Georgia defense. Now, we say it's Georgia defense, but it's really just defense where I've been fortunate enough to be. So some of it's Alabama, some of it's everywhere. But we know college football's changed. We know that it's ever changed. It's going to continue to change. The RPOs have changed the game. Everybody wants to be an RPO guru. Everybody wants to be a guru of this, a guru of that. At the end of the day, it comes down to blocking and tackling and having good players. But for us, we've had to change some things as offenses have changed. You adapt. And I'm going to show you some video stuff on here and some presentations that kind of illustrates that. All right, so that's 2008 where I first got my opportunity as a coordinator under Coach Saban, and very appreciative of that opportunity. And then you can see the evolution, 4 national championships come all the way through, and this dated all the way up to 2019 Sugar Bowl. But that's kind of what this presentation, you say, what's the timeline? It's going to go for that timeline, which is ultimately 8 to 2019. That's what, 11 years in my math. Now, I am born in Alabama, so I struggle with math sometimes, but you got to stay with me here. Alabama defense, you can see there, total defense, where we were, where we've ranked, scoring defense all the way through 2013, 2014. And this is the first year in 2014 that we were outside the top 10. And I think anybody in here that runs a good program, first thing you're going to do is self-evaluate. Everybody does quality control. What can we do better? Who can I go higher? What can I do? We looked at ourselves in 2014 and said, we're slipping. And we still got good players. I mean, the 2014 defense still had 3 or 4 first-round picks. But something else is going on schematically here. Football's changing, numbers are changing, but why are we going down in our rankings? Why are we slipping in some of these areas? And we had to look at ourselves. All right, and we always use a quote. It's not the strong that survive or the most intelligent, but the ones that are most responsive to change. So our game changes now. You can say what you want. Our game has changed. I think back to the formations I used to break down when I was a GA for Coach Kynes, and everything. I played Tennessee, I pro. Mississippi State, I pro. You didn't see a lot of 4 open sets and 3 open sets and empty and all the stuff you see today. So you've got to be willing to change as it changes, and I think that's important. The evolution of our defense, first depending on the evolution of the SEC offense, and that's what I'll skip through this quickly. But you see LSU, you see Kentucky, you see Tennessee, and this was as recent as 2009, 10. And you're going to say, Coach, I've heard 100 talks on those offenses. That don't do me no good. Why does that not do you any good? You don't see it. You don't see it. You know what I mean? Nobody sees it. And somebody here may run it. I mean, my good dear friend Mike Bobo ran it forever at Georgia. I mean, they were in I. That's what they did. And I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that. I'm not here to be the offensive coordinator and have the answers. I'm just showing you that's the traditional primary looks. All right, so when you look at those looks, and I'm going to skip through this stuff fast, some of it, I mean, just your most traditional, you see there, we're in an under defense. They're running stretches, zones, split zones. You see there was a 22 formation, 2 tight ends, and now you're seeing a 21 personnel with Kentucky, where we're stemming into a bear defense, and we're killing it down here, trying to change the defense, hooping and hollering. And then modern day offense. We're going to fast forward now to what you see all the time now. So this is Auburn. This is fastball. We call this double stacks. We call it DAX, where teams getting wide stacks, and they're checking. And you see the formation variation is just completely different. All right, and you see a lot more of this. And as I skip through it, show you a couple more here from the Sugar Bowl. We got to reload, where we're getting a back in the backfield. It's constant movement. I mean, it almost looks like the dang Canadian League the way it is now. You got motion, you got people going all over the place, but the game has changed, all right? This is obviously the national championship game from a little over a year ago. Motion into empty. Okay, now the back's out and empty. Now he's rocking him back, running your read sweep Q power series coming out of the top. Completely different space game. Completely different. So let me fast forward this, and we'll skip through a couple of these just to save time. You get what I mean. So how did our defense have to evolve? Well, the evolution of defensive personnel is the first thing. This is the part I want you to see. So this is 2009. All right, who's in here? Where's Hatcher at? You in here, Hatch? Look at that nose guard right there. 6'4", 316. You go ask Hatch, are you going to block that guy? Are you going to spend your all night sitting over there at the office when you could be with your kids figuring out how to block him, double team, move him to run that ISO? Or are you going to say, piss on that? We finna find a way to run around him, throw the ball in space. It's not the same kind of game. It's hard to find people that move those guys. Now, the NFL, every now and then, they'll get in traditional sets because they feel like they can get those kind of linemen to move them. But the average, look at the body weights on these things. Look at the size of these guys. And, hey, a lot of those guys are still playing today, a lot of them in the NFL. All right, then you fast forward, this is the 2017 defense, and you see the differentials on there for you. The yellow is the differential at every position. So when you start talking about that, you say, wait a second, you guys got a lot lighter. When you get a lot lighter, what do you get? A lot faster. You get a lot faster, and that's by design. And not so much the skill positions. I mean, yeah, there's some differentials there at safety, but really, to be honest with you, we had too big of linebackers to walk out and play in space. We had too big a D lineman to cover down and play things on the screen, and it made it difficult to be successful, and we were slipping. We were slipping. So the wholesale change, and it's not just us. I mean, we didn't invent this stuff. We just know that we had to adjust or we were going to be in trouble, okay? There's 2018 defense. Another differentials there from the years that we were at Bama. So you see the differences. Smaller and faster. There's the nose tackle. John was a guy that's Thompson, Georgia, that's done a great job, got activated last year, but he's not near as big as what Cody was, okay? Dante Hightower's still playing. Getting ready to play for another Super Bowl, made some plays in the other game. And then you can see the comparison to Roquan, who's a kid that's extremely athletic. And when you talk to these NFL scouts, they're all saying, well, what did this linebacker play in high school? Well, Roquan was a receiver at Montezuma, Macon County. He played receiver, and we actually turned him down at Alabama. And we didn't know what the hell we were doing. He was 6 foot, 195 pounds, and thought that he wasn't big enough. And he goes and ends up being a 225, 230-pound great player and is going to play a long time in the NFL. But that's the mold that you started to go to there. You started to morph to that. And you see that now. Jordan Davis is a big kid this year. Tay Crowder's a little bit bigger here, but we're still smaller than we were when we go to those things. How do we do that? Well, we monitor the weights. We're big on monitoring the weights. We've got guys that are on the weight loss plan, the weight gain plan, and we do this every 2 days a week. We get a report, whether you're on the road or not as a coach, where your guys' weight are. We don't want heavy guys. Heavy guys don't play for us. Now, if we need a heavy guy, we'll take an O-lineman and put him on the goal line. Teams want to get in it. But we need guys that can line up, play fast, and be active and run down plays, play in space. So we've moved to that. Okay, now I'm jump back in time on you. 2014, we're playing Ohio State, Sugar Bowl, Ezekiel Elliott, great team. They really exposed us doing a lot of things, loose plays. This is actually, the same offensive coordinator at this time was Herman, who we played this year in the same bowl game at Texas. But they did a good job in this game of never blocking our bigs. We had 3 guys over 300 pounds inside, and he said, hey, we ain't going to block them. We're going to run sideline to sideline. We're going to go really fast. We're going to get you sloppy. This was a really bad play, bunch of bad angles, guys tired, fastball, things we didn't handle well, and that's Ezekiel Elliott. And then here's another picture, taking a shot in the game, max protected, 7-man protection, throwing the ball downfield. They made a ton of plays in this game and exposed us. Part of the reason we ended up 14th in the country in total defense, which was really not acceptable at Alabama. All right, so then there's another long run here late in the game. They run a sweep, get cracked. We don't crack, replace, and Elliott hits us for a big run. So we're sitting there going, okay, we just got our ass beat. What are we going to do? We got to make some decisions. We got to move on. We got to change some things, okay? There's the final score. We weren't able to stop them, and they went on to beat us. So we said we got to learn from our opposition. We got to figure out they had a whole month to get ready for our game. So let's go talk to them, and let's figure out what they thought about us, which I think is critical. Not that somebody in your region, not that somebody in your district, not that somebody will tell you everything, but people you play, we'll call it out of conference, your non-traditionals every year, they'll visit with you. Say, what did you guys think about us? First thing he said was interesting to me. He said, we thought y'all were humongous inside, couldn't run sideline to sideline. We were going to run you to death early, get you running sideline to sideline, spray the ball out, get loose plays. We were not going to run the ball downhill right at you. Didn't feel like we could do it. He said, I also felt like every time you played man free, you were outside. We could beat you on inside breaking routes. So all these things I'm taking notes, saying we got to get better. We got to improve. So we use that stuff to help us. His defensive coordinator, Todd Orlando, we have a lot of respect for. He's a big odd guy. He's a big 3 down, 0 nose, 4 eyes. We think he does a great job, so we visited with him. He was then the DC at Houston with Tom, because Houston, he got that job, but he's now at Texas. And we thought he did a good job helping us out. So issue number one, our inability to play 3-down versus spread teams. We feel like offensive coordinators love seeing 4-down. They want to see 2-5 techniques, a 3 in a shade, and that's what they want to see. I want to block that. I know how to block that. First thing you draw up as an offensive coach is that. They see odd, they go, is he a 4? Is he a 4-eye? Is he here? Is he there? Are they doing something with the nose? We wanted to be able to play 3-down. And I think Schumann was telling me as I walked in, we ended up about 60% 4-down this year, 40% 3-down. As opposed to the year before, it was 60-40 odd to 4-down front. So we've kind of done both, but we like to be both because we want that offensive coordinator to sit in there and think, what do I got to do? How are they going to play us? Which front are they going to be in? I think you create issues for the other team when you do both those. So we didn't have the ability to play 3-down and against spread teams because 2013 and 14, there's regular personnels, okay? 2 true outside backers. We're in 3-down 90% of our snaps against those personnel groupings. All right, then you come over here and say, all right, what about a team that went 11, 20? Does everybody in the room know those numbers? Y'all talking my language? 11, one back, 1 tight end. 20, 2 back, no tight end. 10, 1 back, no tight end, so 4 wide. But what happened to us, teams knew they could get us in 4-down by doing what? Being in those personnel groupings. And teams said, we're going to get odd front, we're going to get 50 defenses when we get in these personnel groupings because we were not playing odd to these personnel groupings. And so if I'm an offensive coordinator and I don't want to see odd, shit, I'm going to line up in 20, I'm going to line up in 11, I'm going to line up in 10, and I'm going to use all those things. So they were dictating what front they got, which bothered us. So we spent a lot of times. Why so little 3-down and nickel? So why didn't you play more 3-down against those? Our 2-gap base front philosophy was did not match spread offenses because we were a 2-gap team. I'm talking about true old school 2-gap guys. And a lot of you guys in this room, I didn't know what the hell 2-gap was. I grew up as a 4-3 coach. I didn't even understand it. And then when I got with Nick, Pete Jenkins. Does anybody in the room know who Pete Jenkins is? Ever heard of Pete Jenkins? Pete Jenkins is like a dinosaur of D-line coaches. All right, the man's coached at every SEC school twice, I think. All right, and he's like, I think he's 80, and he still works out pro players. He still lifts and benches all the time, but he is the dinosaur of 2-gap. He's a big believer in being able to play 2-gap defense. It was the Belichick model, Nick's model. They played it at Cleveland. They played it with the Patriots. I hated coaching linebackers behind a 2-gap defense because you're going to see in this picture the 2-gap to you, y'all are going to say that's a 4. We call it a heavy 5. A 4 is a head up the tackle technique, and it leaves humongous bubbles in there. All right, humongous bubbles. So when you have humongous bubbles in there, guess what you got to do? You got to take on the guards. Well, the guards in our league, Solomon McKinley, the Chance Womacs, the big men, you can't go up there with Roquan Smith and headbutt that guard. That's crazy. I'd be foolish to tell that kid to do that. But you had to have those, and we had them, and we recruited to that kind of defense. So you're going to see Rolando McClain, a first-round pick, Nico Johnson. They got to be able to go take on the guards. I mean, look at that guard there. They're singling the nose, pushing him up, singling the 2 4s right there, or we call them heavy 5s, and he's got to go take on the guard. We knew that we could play that defense against 2-back sets, but we didn't like playing that defense against 1-back sets. So here's another video clip of what I'm talking about. You had to have take-on backers. And I mean take on, I mean go take on a 300-pound man, you're 245 pounds, but when they go spread, I need you to take your 245 pounds and go out there and cover that receiver too. Now, you're not going to cover Alvin Kamara with a 250-pound linebacker, but he might win against that guard. And we were getting both of those type sets, and we weren't able to play both. So our solution became what we call mint front, or some of you guys may call it odd, in nickel. All right? In the 2015 season, we were about 30% 3-down. 16 season at Georgia, 35% 3-down. 17 season, oh, it's going up. And then it kind of flipped back for us here. But we're playing much more odd defense against spread teams, okay? And we felt like it gave us more multiples and ability to bring them. So now, that's a different picture, agreed? Does that linebacker have to go take on that guard? No. He still has some large asses in front of him. You got to have large butts in front. And I like to tell stories when I talk, but I'll never forget my only combine I ever went to. I was at Indianapolis Colts, and I'm sorry, I was at the Miami Dolphins coaching. So we go to Indianapolis for the combine, and I'm sitting there with Coach Saban's there, and he's trying to teach you the ropes about how to evaluate guys at a combine. Y'all seen the combine on TV, right? Ain't a whole lot of evaluating going on. They ain't got pads on. They ain't got nothing. They got shorts on. And he said, "Come over here with me. I want you to come over and sit by Bill." I'm like, "Bill who?" And he's like, "Bill Belichick. I want you to sit by him and listen to him during the combine as they talk about players." where they get where the 40-yard dash is. Y'all have all seen those guys with the tight zone stretching and the guy doing. They got behind them where the thing starts at, where they start them at. I was like, why are we here? You can't time the finish. You can't do it. You can't. He said, no. Bill likes to look to see how big their ass is when they get in down the 40-yard stance, because he wants to sign the biggest ass defensive lineman that he can sign. He said, because those backers want to line up behind those guys, and they want to be protected by them, and they want to have anchor behind them. And John was really good at that. But you can see the little small asses back here behind these guys. These guys are huge, and they're able to cover up the offensive linemen and run and scrape. So as I go to this next clip, I think you're going to get to see it here. Hey, I thought that Tennessee clip was on there. We take that one off, Shu? So, all right, let me go to this next one right here. Go to the end zone here. This copy. This is a this year clip. Let's go here. So now we're playing mint. We're not playing a head-up four. We would call this a 4-eye. I assume you guys would too. So you got 0, 4 eyes. And now these backers' gaps, we feel like we're going to dissolve these gaps. The ball's not going to be running the A if you got a winning nose. The ball's not going to be running the B's if you got a good 4-eye. And now these guys are able to scrape, play over the top, control blockers, and do a lot of things for you. And now you're playing odd defense. You're playing odd defense against true spread teams. I'm going to jump again here to the end zones. Really the point I'm trying to show that we're going to play what we call mint, not what we call two-gap nose. Now, the noses technique didn't change from either group, but the 4 eyes did. The 4 eyes are able to control those guys, doing a good job here, keeping blockers off the backers, and that was the ultimate goal. So we morphed to this, and we were able to play this more and more. Here it is in the Texas game. Again, man, you see everybody in there tight. Should be no gaps. Closing, we don't necessarily spill. We don't wrong shoulder. We close, try to get two, keeping both our guys alive, okay? Now, so that's the same physicality, but different techniques. And I'm about to turn this over to Schumann, but I want to show this. So we had to train this technique. Most linebackers come to us from a high school program where they have never taken on blockers. So we did this drill every camp at Alabama. We didn't do it during the season. We did it leading up to the season. I loved it. Man, we called it trade drill, but it was a safe way to block, zone block, gap scheme things, and it taught our backers to read keys, take on blocks, and be able to play blocks better. So it's 3-on-3. We take them on. We carried that over to Georgia, and the nose here's playing it, Roquan's spilling it, and Natrez is taking him on. So we wanted to be able to take blockers on with the same physicality that you saw the Alabama guys do, that you saw Rolando and Nico Johnson do, but we still want to be able to play in a mint defense and jump over the top of things, see him there spilling the power. Notice the linebacker coach, he put all the good clips of the linebackers on that tape. You know what I mean? He didn't put any of the shitty clips on there. He put the good clips on there. Make sure we saw those. Right? Then this is half-line run for us. We're going to do a half-line run. It's safer. We don't get as many injuries. We don't get bodies on the ground. It's half-line. Obviously, the runs are going that way, but they can run power, inside zone, outside zone, and we're getting all our keys, and we're getting good work. All right? Second issue, I'll tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to stop there, and I'm going to let Shu take this over. But the second issue for us was our ability to handle quick tempo offenses. And everybody knows in the room, Hatch came and played us. Shit, they were going to play us, and they were going to go fast. Don't let them get lined up. Don't let them be multiple. Go quick, get the ball out, spray the ball out, and they want to be fast to get those things out. So we as a defense said, we don't want to make people limit us to what we do. We don't want to walk out of there and say, well, we couldn't shoot all our guns because they were going fast. Because they're sitting over on offense saying, if we go fast, they won't be able to shoot all their guns. So I don't believe in backing down from what you do because the team goes fast. I believe in getting lined up and doing it faster. Now, what happened to us, we couldn't build pressures based on where the back was or build pressures based on, well, this formation do this and this formation do that. No, we came up with field boundaries. We came up with things that were automatic but would give them trouble. And the beauty of mint, of odd defense, you have more depth in your defense. Now, Todd Orlando taught us that. Schumann was with me when we met with him. I said, I don't understand. I'm not very smart. I'm from Bainbridge. I don't know what depth in the defense means. And he said, we got more people standing up that can fire from different places. So when you're 4 down, it's kind of like war. They know where you're at. They are going to blow your ass up eventually, okay? When you got 3 guys down, you've now got the multiple of 8 that can come from anywhere and any place. And we felt like that defensively made us better and gave us more multiples, okay? I'm going to let Shu take this over. And like I said, Schumann has done a tremendous job for us since coming over from Alabama. And everybody talks about our game against Georgia Tech. he had a large part to do with that. He studied the triple option for 2 years. His dad coached it for a long time. His dad, Eric Schumann, coached at UAB and a lot of different places, Valdosta State included, and he did a tremendous job putting a stop to that. So if you want to stay with him for an hour after this, he can go through triple option with your ass too. And I don't know how many people still play that because we don't see it as much in college anymore. But thank you guys. Stick with him and hear this out, and I'm going to recruit some more and try to find some more good players. Thank you. Go Dogs.
I think when you start, besides our terminology, when you look, the number one issue on defending tempo for us was we had 2 worlds we lived in when we were 3 down. Now you could say that doesn't make us very good coaches, but when we were 4 down, we were matching up to formation strength. We were going to align our nickel wherever the most receivers were, and that's how we were going to play. When we were 3 down, we were field and boundary. And so innately, the guys could not get lined up until they got the call. So the first thing we did is say we have to find a way to go and put those things together. Doesn't mean you can't have some field and boundary calls and some matchup calls, but we had to choose a world to live in. And the natural response would be, I would think a lot of guys would say, well, why don't you go field and boundary on everything? That's what we do. But we were getting attacked at a high rate when we were in 3 down and getting attacked to the boundary. I'm good. I appreciate it. Can everybody hear me? Oh, it's for the videos. Oh, okay. Okay, what do we have? Okay. Now, but so we addressed the body types on the field, but the big deal was we have to find a way to morph it and combine it. So for us, we made it so that we were going to match up in everything. And the main reason why is so that we could get to the ball, then get the call. So if you watch us now, compared to when we were compared to watching us back then, guys are running to where the ball is, and they are turning their heads and almost getting into a back pedal as they go. And that way, they are all looking, and as they're finding the ball, their head should be turned, getting the signal as they go. It's not a, well, I can't get lined up, I don't have the call. If you're near the ball and they snap it, now I can go and I mean, name of the game is hit. So worst case scenario, you don't get the call, you are near the ball, you can still strike somebody. So that's how, we wanted to change it. Now when you look at it, here we are when we were playing against Ole Miss before we went this way, and now we were playing field and boundary defense. But we felt like, why does it make sense for us to have our nickel standing out here to the field covering grass? Especially with the way the hashes are, they were still able to threaten us vertically. So if you watch this clip, we're sitting here, we're in what we called base bench at the time, 3 down, field and boundary defense, and we have the nickel over here, and they're running verticals, and it was actually the theme of the year. This was part of the Ohio State year. The theme of the year was 3 or 4 times a game, about everybody we played, lined up trips in the boundary, had enough space to go vertical, and they were going to make the throws really short for the quarterback. And so now we're sitting here. We got linebackers having to run with, Evan Ingram's an athletic tight end, or other receivers. They're putting the tight end into the field. You're going here, and we got Xavier Dixon from Griffin walked out because we're in 3 down, and the nickel is standing in the field, and he's out there walked out in space. Now, they don't throw the ball over there, but when we go and study ourselves, we said, man, we can't. There's too many good athletes in college football to sit there and let them dictate the matchups they're going to have if we play field and boundary all the time. So we got wore out this year. It started with West Virginia. They did a really good job, and we said we're going to invest in playing mint front. Mint to me means matchup for the DBs, matchup for the star and the jack, and inside technique. So we had gone from playing base. If they hear the word base in our scheme, base is true 2-gap. Matchup, inside techniques inside. People call it tight front, however you want to. We use tight in our true 3-4 package. But if we're in nickel, we call it mint. It's the same thing. So a lot of people are calling this tight front. So now we'll get our star, and we'll just watch a couple clips. But he is going to track, and every play starts with him saying star left or star right. Now, hopefully, the jack linebacker is also finding formation strength, and he's trying to line up opposite. So as you train them, they are listening for the call, but they are trying to track each other and be opposite. And that does take a lot of work. It's easier to say, hey, we're going to line up field and boundary all the time. But we would rather say we're going to invest the reps to make sure we can get it done so we don't get exploited than take the easy route. And I think what tempo offenses have done is they make you take the easy route in a lot of ways. And so we decided we didn't want to do that. So here you can see they run a wheel route over here and looking for the matchup. They don't get a good matchup. They end up getting the nickel, matching the wheel route to the boundary. Guy makes a hell of a play on the wheel route. But in the old days, the way we were playing it, they were going to get our 250-pound outside linebacker guaranteed over there if we hadn't gone to this world. The other reason we like it is a lot of times most people do what? They put the formation in the boundary to attack all the grass of the field in terms of the run game. So we're getting, when the star declares himself, for all the jet sweeps, rocket sweeps, however you want to call it, we're getting a 250-pound man with length out to the field to defend the grass. And so that has been really effective in our mind to say, hey, we get to control and we know where our guys are going to be based on formation on every single play. And I like that from the certainty of knowing, hey, if they line up in 2x2, whether they put it to the boundary or to the field, I have confidence that the jack linebacker is going to be exactly where you want him based on the coverage. The nickel is going to be exactly where you want him. And so you have the length of the field and the smaller, faster guys to run down the plays of the field. Same deal this year. You know, just having the bigger anchor point over there to the tight end in 2x2 where we want them. Now, obviously, what most teams do when you're aligning like this, they're going to get in 3x1, and they're going to attack the C area to the field. So that's where when you say, well, why, if you guys love 3 down so much, why are you 60-40 4 down this year? And last year you were 60-40 3 down. A lot of it is how we're being attacked in that game. If we're sitting there getting attacked to the field a bunch, we're going to jump in 4 down enough that we're going to sit there and put a 6 technique in front of that tight end and deny the area they're trying to attack. Or we're fortunate enough this year to play with a lead a lot of the time, and so we really don't want to rush out of our mid front. And so we're going to jump in 4 down a bunch. So we would like to be 50-50 as close to every given year, to be honest, and try to, make the multiples of what they have to prepare for a lot greater. And I got asked, I've been getting asked a bunch over the course of, these weeks on the road. They said, well, what are you guys? We'd like to be 50-50 middle field closed to open too, 50-50 coverage to pressure. We're going to try to rep it that way in practice and rep it throughout to keep the multiples high for the opposition. But for us, it ends up being really simple. It's not that much. Okay, so here we are. Now, the next issue. Old days of football, you're sitting there and you have long calls. You're going to tell them what every word means. So our calls in 2009 especially were base, under-o, blitz, check, dot, scorch. And guys can't even get it out of their mouth. And then you're sitting there and you go base, weak, jack, 7 med, core, check, strong. That's still how we install these defenses now. But every single call that's more than about 2 words is simplified to 1 word. It's almost, if we install a call and it is more than 2 words, 3 words at most, it is getting cut to 1. But we've had to really stress what the original call was to make sure, because I think what you do when you lose that, because I think that's commonplace. I think a lot of you guys probably do that. Hey, this is this word. But kids are learning less defense because you're not actually teaching them what the words mean. So we still start, when we install this call, we still teach them base, weak, jack, 7 med, core, check, strong. And here's what it is. And before you even teach them how to play the defense, it's tell me what that word, the 1 word means. We're going to get to that. It's whack. This is whack, weak, jack. And they know the rest is 7 med, core, check, strong. But until they can repeat to you, whack is weak, jack, 7 med, core, check, strong, and what do those parts mean, you can't have guys really adapting and playing on the field. So as we go, you can see from that year, you see the nickel, he was waiting right there. We're up in a 4 down defense, so he's like, okay, I can go to the boundary. You can see guys from the end zone not even able. We can't even get the signals in time. Guys don't know where to line up because they don't know what the call is. And you can see Ole Miss, same deal. Here we are, a lot of guys not getting lined up. Now, hey, we're not perfect. You're still, I guarantee you, when you watch it, you're like, man, they're not lined up. It still happens a lot of times because we sub a lot on defense. But I would think that the amount we type chaos on our comment section on the computer in y'all's huddle or whatever. If it says chaos, we're going to track how many snaps of chaos we had on the year, and that number's a lot lower than it used to be. But so here we go. Now, so under blitz check dot scorch is now just butter from day 1. Weak jack 7 med core check strong is now whack. Base strong 3 auto check dot mod bass. Over 6 month bronco devil. So everything is going to 1 that has, but you got to know the parts. So now, not perfect, but chains aren't even set, and for the most part, we got if we can get 11 hats lined up That's half the battle. Get them lined up in the general vicinity because most of the time they're going to spray the ball out anyways when they're lining up quick. You go here against Oklahoma. We just call this rope. So this call is rope. It would be over 7 bracket Seahawk if it was the long word. But you call rope, line up, you're in 4 down front, you're playing quarters, and you're good to go. Okay, now, I think this is, for us, we're going to train, besides those, we're going to get them good at lining up to matchup rules, and we're going to get them good at executing those one-word calls and translating what they are in 3 different ways in terms of simulating fastball in practice outside of live practice reps that were scripted to be fastball. And we do this, our fastball starts, this first one is a big part of our summer conditioning program, and we'll do it all summer long. What you can't do with 11 guys. It can be 10 and you can't be across from somebody, but they'll have here, this is generic formation. In the summer when we can't line up against the formation, they'll just have the bags out there. But it is turn up, line. There might be one guy out there that indicates the strength of the formation, but line up as fast as possible. They must get in their stance and be in position to execute their technique, and it is turn, it's 20-yard cover. They circle, the line of scrimmage is reestablished. They have to get the call and turn and run. So they're going to get 3 to 4 reps of this depending on how many times we want to do it. But it's not about the execution of the path, but it is about getting lined up in the technique. It is about covering down. And we start practice with this a lot in season as right after flex, fastball starts. 1s are up, 2s, when they get halfway down the field, our 2s are already lined up. But this is a regular drill for us. Now, we'll also do it as the next progression. That's more of the conditioning way. Now we'll line up, and we will have a formation out there in season. And we'll have the scouts. And it's scripted for success for the offense to guarantee that they can sit there. We know, hey, this look is going to play. They're going to get a big play on this so we can move the ball. And so, same deal. It's cover down. The guy has to be thudded. And until the whistle blows, everybody's covering, just like a normal pursuit drill. This has replaced your traditional pursuit drill, everybody turn and run. That's a day one. The very first day of practice, you might do the old school pursuit drill, but this is the new pursuit drill. It's turn. We're moving the ball down the field. You can see the nickel's having to go find where the formation strength is every single time, and it's really the only way to consistently get them to do it in the game. And if you weren't going to practice doing it at this tempo, then you probably do need to play field and boundary. But this is minimal investment on y'all's part and on our part to get it done. Because the guys don't even have to be very good. We have our managers go out there and do it. It doesn't matter who, we could all do it. Just use your staff. And then we do this one day a week where we do it against our offense, and it'll replace. So now you're getting, different variables. So you got on air, on your scouts, and then you'll do it good on good. And, this one, if we're being honest, always leaves something to be desired in terms, because once you line up 11 on 11, you want it to be good in terms of striking people, in terms of finishing the play. But we're going to get the execution of the call and cover until the whistle blows and get them forced consecutive reps moving down the field and at least get it where it's good on good. Nobody can sub and all that, because you guys know that if you do a fastball period live in practice and it's not in a controlled setting, all the offensive guys will sub. And then defensive guys will stay out there. But so here, you're going to make the offense, and it's good for the offense too, because they're going to have to play their 4 plays in a row. So if we click through that, and they'll hit 4, and the second the last play's done, the second group's going. The coaches are split up. So, the linebacker coach and the running back coach are essentially signaling and coaching the second group coming through. The DB coach, quarterback coach handling the first, and then the third group might be to somebody else. So dividing it up like that so it's continuous motion, and the coaches coach their group for that drill. Okay, and then the last one, which this has been a big conversation, not only when we were, been on the road, but when we were looking for a new defensive back coach, is, how much in this new day and age, where do you feel comfortable in terms of install and in terms of game plan? I think that's something everybody can relate to is, where is it? When we were at Alabama, it was the craziest thing I've ever seen. And it was successful, but the amount of volume in terms of beginning days of practice and in terms of what was carried into a game because of how much you had taught, got to the point that there was a ton of palms up defense, guys not knowing what's going on, guys not able to get lined up and execute on fastball. Now, for us, I would still say we still have a lot of volume, but we have tried to cut out almost all of the BS and then concentrate that on go through last year, what did we actually call? And if we didn't call it the year before, why teach it? Unless it's a situational defense that didn't come up. So if you look, that's day one install from 2014 at Alabama. So we got 15 calls on day one. You got what? Let me see, 9 pressures. And so you don't even have enough practice to rep that. And it's all good stuff. And a lot of it is still in. It might be that we are now, hey, it goes in on day 8 instead of day 1. But we followed our formula. Now, this is still a lot of defense. But this past year, you go from 15 to 11, maybe 4 pressures total that day. And a lot of it, we're getting installed during the summer. So the early days of practice, we're still able to be aggressive because we can get them in the summer like y'all get them. But that doesn't give you an excuse to say on the first day of practice you're going to do 15 calls. Because once you do that, you're going to have 45 calls in the call sheet, and you're going to call 20 of them in the game. And you took 1 rep of the other 25 calls that you have. You can't do them. But we still carry, I would say, on normal downs, about 20 defenses into first and second down and about 20 on third. So we're carrying, based on situation, a high volume, but a lot of it is, here's our 10 base defenses, here's our answers. And so, hey, this is our answer if they start running a bunch of counter. This is our answer if they start doing a bunch of FIB. This is our answer if they're max pro taking shots and we can't cover them, so we got to come after them. Or vice versa, we can't get there and we got to cover them. And so that's how we're constructing our call sheets now versus, hey, let's just put it all in and we'll rep it and we'll keep it up, and then the kids will be able to do it because they've got enough reps at it. Okay. Now this part's, I think, might be more fun for some of you guys, but now we're going on because that year that we were 58th in pass defense, a lot of it was because we had become a really poor third down defense. And so the reason why, when you look at it, and we're going to get into our pressures, is we were primarily a 2-man team and a 5-man pressure team. One dog, everybody else would call it. We call it zero. For some reason, we call what y'all call zero coverage, blitz coverage. So if I say blitz coverage, it's 0. If I say 0, there's a safety in the middle of the field. I'll try to speak in y'all's terms so I don't mess y'all up. But we were primarily 5-man pressure, middle field safety, or 2-man, and that was it. But we had to look at ourselves and say, here we are with the modern age of quarterbacks. You can't rush 4 guys and play 2-man and really feel good about yourself. So sitting here, a couple clips of us getting hurt. Everybody's covered. Yeah, okay, well, hey, that's common sense. I agree. But this is where we were. We had been a team that felt like, you know what, we have good enough players. We can rush 4, and we've always been able to with the way the quarterbacks were, to be able to rush 4, push the pocket, not let the guy out of there. And we're not going to change coverage-wise. We're going to be a 2-man team primarily on third down. We still are. But if enough of this happens with the more athletic quarterbacks nowadays, you got to sit there and self-assess and say, how am I going to do it? So our primary way to handle our quarterbacks on third down is some form of what we call odd mirror 2-man. So odd mirror 5. And we're going to assign our 1 spy, but the difference in how we're going to coach this, and we're going to see on the deal, is it is an aggressive spy. The second the quarterback is off the spot, you get to hug. So it ends up working like a 4-man rush twist game. But our idea is the second the quarterback feels the pocket break, and we'll see it, you're gone. Because we don't want I think a lot of people view spies as this guy's hovering at 7 yards, 5 yards until the guy breaks the line of scrimmage. That's not what we want it to be. We still want to be aggressive. We just don't want the inside lanes for the quarterback to escape for immediate yardage. If he wants to get the yardage and convert for us on 2-man, he's going to have to run outside and outrun our spy. So here we are in 2 minutes against Auburn this year. We'll change the way we present it every week, and we're going to sit here, and Adam Anderson from Rome is going to run the guy down and just force the throw. It's not about the sack, but it's about, hey, we're going to sit there from the end zone. We're going to make sure that the pocket gets broke by the left end, and we're going to make sure he cannot step up, because when we studied it, almost every scramble for a first down against 2-man was B gaps and inside. So we're going to make sure that the pocket gets broke and that the guy has to win outside if he's going to scramble for a first down. And we're going to hope that it's a coaching issue if we got the wrong guy out there to chase the guy down. That's a coaching issue. So, and it gives away, like this guy, he had a role this year when he really, in a lot of ways, couldn't help us on first, second down yet, but it gives guys roles too. So now here we are the year before. Same deal, you'll see the aggressive element. We get a sack off it here. Same deal, pockets broke, and now you get an aggressive hug by 15. And so you're not sitting there and letting the quarterback hold the ball. It's not that, but it's, hey, if you're going to be a two-man team, you're going to make sure that he gets pulled up. And a lot of times it's just trash. I mean, you get trash sacks off it. And then same deal. Like I said, change the presentation. So this year, in the first year we were there, we're going to double mug, and we're going to make it look like something else we have. We're really big. I think the most important thing on third down is if you can make it look like something else you have. It's not if you can. If you're not making it look like something else you have, then you're doing yourself a disservice. You have to be, it can't be, well, we're doing this just because that's how we line up. Every week, move one guy, it needs to look like what was there last week. It needs, give the other guys credit, but for a long time, when we were at Alabama, it's like, hey, this is what it is on paper. We four-man rush, we play two-man. We got good players. Hey, this is our five-man rush done out of odd. And not that we didn't have new ideas, but we're much more focused, if I had to comment on ourselves from where we were in the past, and I think a lot of guys are doing really good jobs on third down right now. We're much more concerned with what did we run last week? How can we show that so that whatever they repped is now something else? Now, so to build off that, all these double mug looks that we were given all year, one of the mug guys was popping out, hovering, or popping out in coverage. And we mug guys all the time on third down. So we said in this game, we're still going to have a spy, but we're going to dictate that the protection gets slid to the left. We're going to have 41 take a step back like he is abandoning the rush. The back's going to have him in protection, or the guard, whichever one. Somebody is going to leave him, and the second he sees his eyes come off him, you're an aggressive hug to the quarterback. And you still had 56 over there as your spy if the guy gets flushed to the field. But so we wanted to be able, and so major concern saying, hey, we know that all week long when we mug, guys popping out, the back's getting out, somebody's getting out, the guard, his eyes are changing in protection. So give them something and make them. I think we always talk in defensive football about defensive eye discipline. Hey, eye discipline and coverage, eye discipline and keys. But finding ways to really stress the protection to be disciplined with their eyes and not letting them know where things are and making the back or making the guards track people from other areas or to not abandon somebody the second he drops. So the other thing was, like I said a second ago, we were primarily a 5 or 6 man middle of field closed pressure team. We were very predictable in terms of you could look out there even when we were disguising. Hey, I'm getting 2-man or man free. So you could see just flying through. And all your man free pressures, there's nothing wrong with them, but they're high investment. You're giving them what they want. It's high investment, high risk, high reward. And so you can see here as we fast forward through this, calling a man free pressure, backed up, giving up a 99-yard touchdown. Sitting here, they know where the one-on-ones are, but this was the world we lived in. And so they know they can go on 3rd and 6 and throw a back shoulder at the sticks. They know in the red zone when they see a pressure look and we're pressed outside because we were off in our 2-man a lot of the time, reading the releases, hey, I can go take the one-on-one ball to the field. And so as we go through, I know that, hey, on the slot, I can either throw the fade to the slot and attack them that way, away from the middle field safety, or I can sit there and the way, like Coach Mark was saying earlier, Tom Herman told us, hey, y'all play outside leverage all the time on the slot. We felt like, yeah, slants. I mean, it's 3rd and 5. We're going to throw slants, but that's the way we believed in playing it. So we've modified that a little bit, but we were so predictable. It was 2-man or it was this, and there were so many easy access throws or throws that we knew, hey, we basically gave them the opportunity to convert that 3rd down. And so now the world we're in, click through this because am I over right now or where am I at? Anybody? Bueller? Got it. Here we go. Okay. So our solution, and I think this is the way a lot of college football is going, is almost all of our 3rd downs this year are what we call simulated pressures. They are mostly 4-man rushes. They are some form of zone or cover one with a low hole player, and we're going to try to dictate the protection we're getting and play our coverages behind it that we want in that situation based on down and distance. So third and medium, we can sit here, line up in a bear look, know there's a high likelihood that we get the back on the linebacker and drop people out, and it's a 4-man rush. Now we're talking about the 5- and 6-man pressures. They have a high cost and a high risk. This 4-man rush, that's what you're playing with on every down. So it's minimal risk for the possible reward. So here we are, we call this bears, but we're here. You get in a 5 down, they're releasing the back here on the screen, but even if he was in protection, you're going to get your one-on-one. A lot of times you're going to get to choose who you want the one-on-one to be, move your best player there, and then the way it was ruled up on paper, the end to the right, he's not peeling. He has that back man-to-man, period. And the other guy on the end of the line, the DB on the end of the line to the boundary, he is the low hole rat, period. So that's where, and now he's taking the crossers away. So this has become a lot of what we do versus, hey, now we got people in the windows for the slants, for the pick routes, the mesh routes. We have people in those windows. Now, same type of presentation. It's the same deal. You can see this time the backer on the end of the line to the boundary. He has the back, and now the player standing up is our low hole. But we are going to run the same stunt that a lot of people would say, well, I'm going to take everything out of this in a second, fast forward through it. You can see we got a low hole player to protect the crossers on the bunch route. But now, what's our real investment? Roquan has the back man-to-man. So who's really in the rush? 4 guys. It's a delay by 7. He's letting it set up, and it's a 3-man pass-off. And you had the low hole player. So why would you rush 5 or 6 when you could do this instead and get an extra player underneath for the quarterback? Now, I will say one of our big conversations we have as we go through these is sometimes we need more real stuff. We've become so infatuated with, hey, we're going to bring 4 and they're coming from all over. But there's still got to be a time where you push the pocket and fill up the rush lanes. And we probably did not, if we're self-scouting ourselves at the end, we started the Alabama game 6 for 6 on 3rd down. And we gave up the last 5. And probably one of our commentaries looking back on it is we needed more real pressure at the end of that game. We didn't fill up enough rush lanes. We were bringing too many simulateds. But for the most part, these have been really, really good for us because they are very, they're low. You don't use a lot of guys to have to run them. So same deal. We got a 4-man rush here. You can see, hey, we're going to give one guy the back, pop the other guy low hole. And you're going to get, based on the protection, unless they slide it, you're probably going to get a one-on-one for somebody on the back. So if you can manage to get one of your best players one-on-one on the back and only rush 4, it's a good deal to me. I'm going to click through. We got a couple more. You'll see we have a couple more that are with the low hole player, the traditional 1 rat that we can click through. But I want to get to some of the other concepts that we really go to as well. So it's not all still middle of the field close. So we're going to click through these. But now we'll go to what we call bird dog coverage. So bird dog is a 4-man rush 2 trap. So we want, hey, the 2 trap effect, but somebody is there who can possibly account for the quarterback or the back. So we're going to sit there, same deal, get in some type of a look that we feel like can dictate protection. In this case, we're going to line up 5 down. We're going to line up in a bear look. And we're going to bring somebody non-box count that the running back has now got to be disciplined with his eyes to track from the box to outside the box. And at the end of the day, we're rushing 4, and we can play whatever coverage we really want with it. But here, we're going to be hard rolled up in the flats, something you can play on 3rd and intermediate. And so now you can see here, we're mugged up. We push out. We're running with the verticals as we get out of there. The back stays in, but he starts to track because there's a safety showing down to the boundary, has a good disguise there. He's starting to track him as his box count players leave, and he misses the nickel from the field. And if he picks it up, how much did you invest in it? 4 guys. So if he picks it up, whereas I feel like sometimes when you're investing in your 5-man, your 6-man, you're sitting there saying, hey, I need somebody, 1, to win. You get a one-on-one, you're supposed to win, right? Especially for us. Like if we get the right guys in the building, you're supposed to win. Or we've dictated who gets the one-on-one. But when you rush 4 here, you can possibly get your one-on-one, and then if they pick it up, it's not the end of the world. You still have sound coverage. You're not sitting there, hurting. So here we go. You can see there. Get the turn. And then I think what's been big for us this year is we're saying, hey, now, week to week, we like that pressure. They're tracking whoever our big guy is, or they're not accounting for this guy in the rush because of what we've done. Now, the guy who was the dropper in all these before, he is now our live rusher. So on that last clip, Lorenzo Carter was our dropper. We're going to run the exact same pressure. And now we've taken the nickel, put him in the box to get the protection count, and put our guy we want the one-on-one for, in this case, 15, DeAndre Walker, and line him out. And now 4-man rush again, and just simple, same exact pressure. For us, we called the other one Falcons, and then this one's called bends. Bends, the big guy flips. Falcons playing the bends. So it's very simple from everybody except for those 2 guys knows, word association, we flip on this one. And for the presentation in terms of, you don't know how they're counting they're saying, hey, don't count this guy, do count this guy. But you move them, run the exact same deal, and you're getting free guys sometimes with free guys or one-on-ones that you want on 4-man rush. Like I said, now everything is now inside out. We're carrying the verticals. We're denying the ball back underneath. We're giving things to the flat, to the corner, or whoever the flat player is. But you're getting a lot of the looks that you want. And all it takes is, hey, you got to coach. They got to have some nuts to stand in there, because you got to until you get whatever the indicator of the week is that they called their protection. Once you get their protection indicator, now I can leave. But I'm holding up in there until either the quarterback's ready for play or we get the protection called from the O-line. And then same deal now, hey, you go in, you say, well, you guys just said you're turning and running. You're turning and running with these guys if they go vertical on that. Back to the same issue. You're going to want me, you said don't play 2-man with a 4-man rush because you run with everybody. The quarterback escapes internally. And now, hey, this one's Atlanta. Now Atlanta sprint 3. So we're back to playing cover 3. So you have Falcons, Benz, Atlanta. They're all the exact same pressure. One changes the coverage. One changes who's running it. But from learning purposes and getting to have different looks and getting guys to do more things and promote, or cause more problems, it causes more problems than it takes the investment in reps. The guys know these 3 things are the same. And so now we're playing zone with it to handle a quarterback that might be more mobile, or it'll allow you to play it on a down that, hey, they're going to run vertical more. And you don't want to lose all your eyes and your vision. Okay, and then what's the, where am I at? I don't know. I didn't look up, so I don't know if I've got a 5 or not. Can somebody give me a time? So I got 10? Great. We got plenty of tape left. Good. You're going to get, there's a whole second half of this presentation. So we're good. Cover 2 now. So now I want to take this picture. This picture that we see is about the exact same presentation as the one we just ran, the Atlanta, the Falcons, the Benz. We got everybody mugged to the field, and now we're going to get a 4-man rush. Our 4th rusher is now our corner, and we're going to play straight cover 2. But we're knowing, hey, we've run Atlanta, Benz, Falcons 4 times this year at this point. So if we run it 4 times this year at this point, then we know there's a good chance that maybe they're not going to 5 down it. Maybe they're not going to big on big it. They're going to slide the protection based on where the big guys are. So we're going to intentionally put our big guys to the field and then pressure to the boundary. So, and then play cover 2 with it. Now, part of where this comes from is we sat the week before, and I think you have to, just like you learn and try to visit with every opposition you have, the great part about Coach Smart is he's sitting there and going on Sunday after Kentucky, he goes, you should see this 4-man rush simulated that Kentucky ran. Said our offense, the back, he couldn't track with his eyes to the corner. He goes, we didn't even touch the guy. 4-man rush. So the next week it's in. So within our package, you can't completely overhaul what you do, but hey, I'm here. It's easy to add in. So here, our offense, 2 minutes before the half, the safety's down in the box. When he leaves, Swift doesn't track to the corner because he's tracking the guy in the box, and they get a free hit on the quarterback. So we come back. We said, well, there's our 2 pre-snap presentations. We're trying. You can see over here, you got, I guess I can't draw there. You got DeAndre Walker standing out here, and now we're sitting here. That's Adam Anderson, but it's the same position on the field saying, that's what we want. We want them to turn this protection to him. We think that they've got us figured out enough because we keep putting this big guy standing out to the field near the hash, and he comes, so we got to go throw our curveball in there. So now we're here, 4-man rush again. 4-man rush, the corner's free, and you're not playing trap where you're worried about not having everybody accounted for or running with everybody. You get to play true zone, inefficient. Now, I will say this, before I forget to say this. One of the things that we probably, because if you look, the biggest criticism of us on defense, you say, well, y'all don't sack the quarterback enough, and y'all don't get enough tackles for loss. And I agree with that. And that's something that we probably, reflecting on it, say we need to let our guys rush more because we have some guys that can rush, which is why I'm going back to don't get infatuated with this stuff too much. It needs to be a part of what you do. If you adopt it, it can't become all of what you do. And we probably, because of, now we're getting off the field on these. It's not like you can, if you're getting off the field, it's a good call. But there are some times that we said, man, we could have just called a 4-man rush and played zone and gotten the exact same thing. Because sometimes these guys, I mean, they're like, man, can you stop calling these simulated pressures? Can you just let me rush? I'm tired of, I'm 250 pounds and you just keep popping me back here in the low hole. I mean, you gotta give them a little love. So that's our variation off that. You get our mug, they're going to turn it. They don't account for the corner. You can see the back. He's got to have eye discipline. He's trying to track them. His eyes never go back to the corner. And then we'll do the same thing with the bird dog carrying. So I want to get to some of this tackle for loss study stuff. So, okay, thank you. Okay, but before we get that, it goes back to what I was saying a second ago. To simulate pressure, you have to have enough real pressures in there. So if you go look, just to show a couple of these, we're in the same look that all of our Bens and Falcons and all those were. We got our bear look, and now you have to have the ability to truly 5- and 6-man pressure because the quarterback has to feel you at some point, and you're more likely to get a hit on the quarterback and get hands on him when you do bring guys. But now this becomes our curveball. So when we do bring everybody, a lot of times it almost panics the quarterback because there is real pressure, there is real push. And so here we're in the same look. We're going to have our 3-man magic stun, our twist stun inside. A lot of times you're going to say the twister gets picked up by the back if the O-line doesn't get it passed off. And so we're going to bring 35, who's the back is responsible for in protection. We're going to bring him the other way to try to draw his eyes if he was in protection. Not expecting 35 to get home, but expecting that when the twist happens, if they don't pass it off, that the back won't be able to scan across for him because his rule in protection is that's my man if we 5 down it. And then we skipped over some double mug stuff that we had. I apologize for that, but there's all the simulateds out of double mug that are 4-man rush. And then now, the only way those are any good and the only way you don't get them to full slide every double mug is if you'll truly fire people off the edges from double mug. And so we have a real 5-man, 2-trap corner pressure here. After we had some 1 rats out of this and we had some true cover 2 zones out of this as well. And I can get that to whoever needs it. Or Austin can. Austin's up here in the front. He really made this presentation. The idea started last year, but Austin did all the retooling. So Coach Smart said I made the presentation. Austin made the presentation. It's been a fun week on the road, relaying information back. Okay, but now the last thing, I think this is good. We did this a lot at Alabama. We do not really do it at Georgia, but I wanted to make sure it was on this tape. But when we first went into the simulated pressures in really 2015, we did a lot of these cover 5 simulated so you could still play 2-man. And so we'll go sit there, and on this is what we call Mars. The inside linebacker is going to run a twist stunt. But we assigned 1 guy to the back and 1 guy to the tight end. But you're going to make them pass it off and play 2-man. We're thinking, hey, now we get the best of both worlds. We love playing two-man, and we love running these twist stunts that you would normally invest 5 or 6 guys on. So you can see we're getting to play two-man around it, and we end up getting a pick here out of the two-man. Quarterback forces the ball with some pressure, but now you look at the picture from the box, and we're getting a stunt that we would normally have to invest 5 or 6 guys in to run, but we're really investing 4. And you can do this with any coverage you want. You can play zone with it, but you're getting all the twists that you run probably in your deal. You say, hey, this guy on the edge is being wasted. Let's just give him some other responsibility in coverage. And the part of the rush that wins, the part of the rush that's the winner that you're getting your pressure and your sack off of, keep that in there and take the other stuff and do something else with it as long as. And the last one, you do the same thing out of an odd look. So it's the exact same stunt. Now we're standing people up, and now we're going to let our nose, it's two-man around it, let the nose be the penetrator. But once again, 4-man rush, we're playing two-man with it. You get pressure, and it's low resource investment. And then so just to, our big thing is we want to constantly try to evolve, and we want to constantly work. So we were okay in third downs this year. We're 23rd in the country, but while we've been on the road, our support staff is cutting up the top 12 teams in the country on third down defense. And like I know Army is a big-time simulated pressure team. And so we'll have our write-ups, and we'll go back through those cut-ups and say, hey, what fits what we do? We're not going to force ourselves into something we don't do, but what fits what we do, or is there something we're missing that's new out there? Because I think that the biggest thing is to try to stay, going back to the first Darwin quote, to try to stay as much up with the times and changing. And there's a quote by, I believe it was Einstein or somebody that talks about that the ultimate measure of intelligence is the ability to learn new information. I'm going to pull it up. Here it is. I'm not going to make up some false quote for you guys. But as we go to the end of this, you'll see we had a TFL, so we're constantly evolving. Yeah, the measure of intelligence is the ability to change. So I think it ties into the first quote that it says that the most intelligent man or the most intelligent person isn't necessarily who survives and evolves, but the person who evolves is the one who's willing to change. But then this ties in with it saying that, hey, the measure of intelligence is the ability to change. And so, with that, go Dogs. Appreciate you guys. I got the Tackle for Loss study. If anybody wants to look at that, you can get that from Austin as well. So, appreciate you guys.